So you want to feel like it's summer, right? Like you're at the beach, you have no school, you're wearing all the cute outfits you've been waiting all year to wear. You have a bunch of free time to do the things you want to do, read the books you want to read, and all is just right with the world. But in reality, it's winter, and it's cold outside. We all have school. We barely have time to do the things we want to do, or read the books that we want to read, or wear the outfits we want to wear. But at least here are some book recommendations that will make you feel like it's summer. Starting off strong, my first recommendation is the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. You have probably heard of this series if you are on any kind of booktube, book talk, online, or if you have Disney Plus and you saw that the new show came out. So this book is about Percy Jackson, our main character, and he's basically this really troubled kid who has gotten kicked out of a bunch of boarding schools, and he just makes trouble all the time. And you know, he just feels different than everyone else. He sees things differently than everybody else. One day something happens and they come and tell him that he is a demigod. So meaning he is half god and half human. And so obviously he's like, you guys are crazy. You guys are insane. This is a Greek mythology kind of book. It mixes Greek mythology with, you know, the real life world. So then Percy Jackson is taken to a camp called Half-Blood Camp. And that camp is a camp for demigods who are called half-bloods because they're half god and half human. And while he's in the process of getting to camp, a lightning bolt, a really dangerous and important and powerful lightning bolt, is stolen. And that lightning bolt belongs to Zeus, who is a very powerful god. And everybody, all the gods, Mountain Olympus, all the important people, believe that Percy stole it, even though he knows that he didn't. And so now him and his new friend from camp are sent on a quest, on a mission, to find the lightning bolt and obviously prove that Percy isn't the thief. This is a 5-book series. This is the original series, and then there's one that comes afterwards if you want to read it. I think it might be like 5 more books, but that one's optional. And after you read these 5 books, if you like them, you can read the rest. And like I mentioned before, these books actually just got turned into a show on Disney Plus, and I already watched it. The first season came out, and all the book lovers, all the book fans have, I mean, at least I have been loving the show, and it actually just got renewed for a 2nd season. So if you've already been watching that, you're probably really excited like I am, and I'm so excited to see what they do. And it'd be so perfect if it came out this summer. But it probably won't, because that's really fast for the actors, and I doubt they can do that so fast. But we can hope. There's also movies, but we don't talk about the movies that much. If you know, you know. But yeah, this is definitely a series that will keep you obsessed the whole summer, or now until summer actually comes, and then you can maybe, you know, watch the show and just act like it's summer and like you're a demigod who's going to camp on a mission. Next up, we got Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book is taking place in the late 1960s, and it's about a rock and roll band. I love the format of this book. I've talked about it before. I just love it. Basically takes place like an interview, and basically every character gets like a paragraph. Like it's just an ongoing conversation. I read this book so fast, I couldn't wait to like finish it, but also I didn't want to finish it because I didn't want the story to end. So the story starts off with Billy Dunn and Graham, his brother, creating a rock and roll band called the Dunn Brothers. So they start off like any band, obviously no fans, no experience. They start off doing a couple gigs here and there, and then they get a producer, they start taking off a bit more. And then on the other side of the story, you got a complete separate person called Daisy Jones. Her parents were kind of famous for like fashion, and they were really rich. And so she's always been around like clubs and musicians and parties. And then she has this beautiful voice. And then one day she also decides to pursue music and start writing her own songs. And then somewhere along the story, a producer realizes that Daisy Jones is wonderful, and the Dunn brothers, who are now called the Six, are also wonderful. But he realizes that if Daisy Jones and the Six combine, they will make an amazing band. And so then Daisy Jones and the Six start, and that's where the rest of the story takes place. And I just found the story super interesting, and there was some amazing quotes in here. I would say to check some of the trigger warnings, because there are some things talked about in here that not everyone might be comfortable with. This story doesn't actually take place during the summer. It just kind of takes place over a couple years. But I felt like the story kind of had like a summery vibe. This is the kind of book that you would want to take to the beach, I feel like, and just read at the beach. So if you want a book that isn't specifically centered around summer, I definitely recommend this book because you will have the summer vibe and you would be able to read it during the summer, but it's not specifically about summer. Next up, we got Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. Now let's act like this sticker isn't on there because I cannot take it off because I know if I take it off, it's gonna get all sticky and it's gonna... This book takes place in Italy and it's about our main character, Lena, who was sent to Italy by her mother who just passed away. And her mom's last wish was for her to go to Italy and experience what her mom was able to experience in college when she studied abroad and moved to Italy. But when Lena goes to Italy, it's to be with her father, and she has never met him. He was never present in her life, and so she kind of doesn't want to be there. Obviously, she wants her mom, she wants to be home, she wants to go to school like she usually does. But while she's in Italy, she finds a journal that was actually written by her mom when she was in college. And while she was in Italy, she wrote this journal down of everything that happened to her while she was there and all the experiences she went through. And so she starts reading the journal and she finds new things out about her mom. And she finds out about like secret bakeries in Italy and about like places her mom had been. And so she started going there as well. This book is pretty fast paced and I personally like that. And if you're a font person and like you don't like your font being too small because it doesn't make you motivated to finish the book, let me just tell you that the font in this book is actually pretty big, so it makes you feel like you're reading a lot faster than you actually are. And this book also has a subplot of romance. The next book I'm going to be talking about is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I read this book pretty early on in my reading journey, so I will say that I wasn't very picky then. So if you have a lot of experience reading, maybe this book isn't for you. Because a lot of people who have read hundreds of books think that this wasn't their best. But I personally did like it at the time that I read it, so if anything changed now, I kind of wouldn't know. And this book is about a family called the Sinclairs. And it is this family with a private island. And every summer they go and they spend the whole summer there all together. And there's different houses on this island. Each house is for one of the families, like one of the daughters and all their kids. And last summer, our main character, Cadence, or maybe Cadence, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce her name, but our main character wasn't able to go to the summer house because of some, personal circumstances. And then this year she's back, but she starts realizing that some things are kind of off and some things are weird and there's some lies in between her family. And so I'm going to read you the back of the book because I think it's very interesting how they write it. If anyone asks you how it ends, just lie. We are Sinclairs. We live, at least in the summertime, on a private island off of the coast of Massachusetts. Perhaps that is all you need to know, except that some of us are liars. And our main character, Cadence, just kind of spends the whole summer with her family and the group of teenagers around the family. So there's about 4 of them, and they just kind of spent the summer together doing fun things and going to the ocean in the middle of the night, jumping off rocks, and a bunch of crazy things. So if you want a book with a summer theme, with some plot twists and mysteries, and maybe shed a tear or two, then this book is for you. For the final recommendation in this video, we have The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. Now this is a trilogy, and you have probably seen this around because it was very big everywhere. A lot of people have read it, and if you haven't yet, then I totally recommend reading it. These books are all less than 300 pages and pretty fast-paced. And this book is about Belly, and if you don't want to read it just because her name is Belly, her name is actually Isabel, and they just call her Belly because that's a nickname. So yes, her name is actually Isabel, not Belly, because so many people want to come for the author for naming her main character Belly, but it's actually Isabel. It's just a nickname. We just need to look past the name and just talk about the book. So yeah, I just needed to address that before we get into actually talking about the book. This book is about our main character Belly, who, since she was born, basically her whole life, every single summer, her mom and her brother go to a beach house in Cousins Beach with her mother's best friend and her 2 sons. And this summer, Belly is, I think, 15 in this book. She is pretty young. She's 15 turning 16. And like I mentioned, her mother's best friend has 2 sons. So she's always had a big crush on one of the brothers, Conrad, and has been really good friends with the other one, Jeremiah. And so she's hoping that this summer will be able to be different and that she will be able to, actually have a chance with Conrad. This is a YA book, which basically means it's young adult. So it is for an audience of ages around 13 to maybe 18. I think anyone of any age can read this book, starting at like 12 or 13, going on to whatever age. But if you are like older and you want to read this book, it's not like this super mature, deep book with like a bunch of depth. So if you want to read this book, you can read it at any age. But just know that it is centered for a younger audience. So it's not a super mature book and it's like super deep or anything. It's just like a fun summer read. And one of the last things I should mention about this series is that you should also check the trigger warnings, which there's not like much deep things talked about in this book, but it does touch a little bit on the subject of grief. I don't want to say much on that because I don't want to spoil anything in the series, but it does touch on some things that not everyone maybe wants to read about, so I would check with a little risk of maybe getting a little bit of spoiler. So just know going into it that they might touch on the subject of grief. And the last thing I will say on this series is, can we take a second to appreciate the covers? Because they are just so cute. I like them so much. This is the second book in the series. And this is the third one, which is my favorite cover. I love the purple. So even if you don't end up actually liking these books, which I hope you will, they will look so cute on your shelf. Just look at that. They're so cute. There are pretty fast reads and just a good summary read. Those are all the recommendations I have for today. So if you're a little bit sad that it's not summer yet, just remember that this year it's supposed to be an early spring, which basically means that it's already spring. And since it's spring, it basically means that it's summer, and that literally means that it's summer right now, even though it's 50 degrees outside. But you just believe whatever you need to believe in order to be happy. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found at least one recommendation. If you would like to see more book content and more book recommendations, feel free to hit the subscribe button and just hit a like or a comment or whatever you want to do. And don't forget to read a book today, and I'll see you in my next video soon. Bye!